Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the fastest 2 hours in talk radio. We still have my consort and cohort and various other nice adjectives guest, Penny Bright, the brightest woman I know, and she's the person who says to John Key, John Key says, "Go away, Penny," and Penny goes, "I'll see you in Helensville." And you've got to use that, Penny. Damn it, Penny! Over the years, I have given you gold. I have given you diamonds. I have given you platinum. Please use them.
I'll see you in Helensville.
I'll see you in Helensville.
Well, the fact that here he was when he was opposed to Helen Clark, and he was actually in the Helensville electorate.
Yeah, well, after he turned in, it really became more like hell. And my very special other guest that we have joining us from down the line, who has been driving around all over the place with his campaign vehicle that he needs to earn his daily bread, Ian Parker. Welcome to the show, mate.
G'day, Vinny. Nice to catch up again, mate. Good to see you still putting the hard questions out.
Yeah, I don't really ask the hard questions. I more like have this this little radio show as a mutual whinging session for people who actually at least know what's going on and really effed off that nobody else does, and they just seem to be enslaved and hate us and abuse us and things like that. So I just provide this little sort of opposite platform for us,
Oh, mate, I think you do a great service in giving a lot of people a voice.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, well
done. Nobody else is doing it, so the responsibility falls to the one with the power. What can I say? That's what power's for. It's for helping people, not for taking stuff off people and getting more power. But anyway, speaking of taking stuff off people and getting more power, the Prime Sinister. He's just the most disgusting. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm becoming extremely unprofessional politically. You may have noticed. But it's not so much about facts and evidence now. It's just more about, are they a scumbag or are they not? That's the only factor of evidence that I really care about. After that, it becomes all about the abuse in their direction, preferably, because it makes me feel better. I hope it makes them feel worse, but I can't, you can't hope for everything.
Well, thankfully, there's lots of on-the-record evidence to support that, Vinny. It doesn't have to be just allegations.
It's ironic. I could make stuff up off the top of my head and make it the worst that I could possibly imagine. It would probably turn out to have lots of evidence behind it.
Probably better to start off the other way. That's how I prefer to do it, Vinny. But
generally, but my way's more fun.
Can bite you on the bum sometimes. But very keen to hear what developments with Ian. We're certainly both on the same page regarding the real hard question, which is what was the role of John Key in the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act, which left the derivatives market without regulation. And I asked that question back in about 2011. Funnily enough, I never got a reply. But this is the real hard question that mainstream media needs to be forced to ask, and we just need to ask it ourselves and keep asking it.
Yeah, g'day, Penny, that's for sure. And especially, as you know, he's trying to hide a lot of his past with the recent book that he put out. I actually took the time to read the financial section within it, and just to confirm something from the excerpts that they put in the New Zealand Herald, that the word derivatives doesn't actually appear in it.
Nowhere.
Nowhere.
Oh, you're joking.
No.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Well, but you can cry me a derivative. Cry me a derivative.
Because, as you know, Penny, when he turned up on the scene in 2005 or 2008, he was actually recorded on the record quite often scolding about his exploits in the heart of international high finance, and quite openly admits to his dealings as being to the head of Merrill Lynch's European derivatives division. But
he actually refers to his $5 million Parnell mansion as the house that Merrill built.
That's a fact.
But
yes.
Anyway,
I hear it's distinctly different from Groove Armada's The House That Funk Built.
And yes, and now that derivatives have become very much a dirty word, I believe the recent book is sort of an attempt to, people are beginning to look a little bit more into his past, and it's an attempt to disclose a little bit more to hide certain elements that he that he doesn't want disclosed. So it's
well, it's interesting because just today I rediscovered the 2005 article Fran O'Sullivan did when he's basically saying sort of how wonderful Ireland was and how he encouraged people to go there because the tax rate was only 10%, blah blah, and what a huge success for an investment it had been. So I did a bit more research because I did know that the Irish economy had gone clunk, and I found some really damning facts. So that's what we've done earlier on in the show. It's like, okay, it was all wonderful. Well, then it turned to mush. And the question is, how much is John Key personally responsible for the stuff up of the Irish economy? Because it looks like he's very responsible, in my view.
Oh, he had a large part in it, of course. Like and when he turned up here in 2005, and when they got elected in 2008, he was pushing hard to have the same zero tax interest rate charged upon foreign funds earned offshore and moved here, and was claiming that we would make income out of all of the bankers moving their accountants and their lawyers here and moving their back offices here.
Tax haven, basically, eh?
Yeah, he was going to set up a foreign lending tax haven, just like they did in Ireland, basically take advantage of the corporate sweetheart tax rates. And, of course, Ireland let them in to take advantage of the zero zero tax rate upon foreign investments. The money moved there, laundered through the place. And, of course, what happens when most of these deals finish up, the accountants and the lawyers and so forth, after they've done their tax accounting, actually claimed a rebate from the nation. So all of the income they were supposed to make from taxing these 5,000 new workers, financial system workers, it just turned into pie in the sky. They hollowed and gutted the place.
Well, they had them hook, line and sinker, and then they used the rebate. I find the interesting order there.
Yeah. And so now, of course, Ireland's economic sovereignty is just completely taken out of its hands. It's in the hands of the lenders, although the actions the actions were completely predatory. But somebody within the Labour Party, the National Party, must have thought it was going to be pretty unpalatable to the constituents of New Zealand, because it seems to have gone on the back burner when he was pushing royally hard there at a few. Fran O'Sullivan actually reported it at a few business meetings, stating that we need to get this thing done by such and such, and we don't need to go through the Magna Carta sort of thing. It's just, I'm telling Jury Brownlee to make it happen, but it hasn't happened. So I do think that someone within the National Party thought it was going to be too unpalatable if they pushed it too hard.
This reminds me of a story that was told by a man named Michael Rupert from thewilderness.com. He's committed suicide now. He was exposing a whole bunch of stuff with the world ending and and whatnot. And he was an investigator. And what he was doing was investigating the Bush crime family connections and things of that nature. And he had all these documents and these books that people had published, right out in the open, that fully proved that these were basically a bunch of criminals. The American presidency and the lines of which are just basically a criminal gang. And he mentioned this to somebody in Congress, and he said, if anybody reads this, there'll be a revolution. And the guy in Congress said, yeah, but the American people don't read. And the exact same thing, I believe, is true here. All the facts and all the evidence about John Key are totally out there. They're totally published. They're easy to find. But the people don't read.
Well, no. Well, what I'm finding is that, just tonight, the fact that I sent out a press release sort of far and wide. You see, I'm having great fun on Kiwi blog, because I'm finding it's a really, really effective way of getting your message across. It costs you nothing. And, of course, the more semi-hysterical the response to what you're posting, usually it's a very good sign that you're absolutely on track, because, as you once said, Vinny, you don't cop the flack unless you're over the target. But, so I've posted this up on Kiwi blog. They're asking this hard question of John Key, how much was he personally responsible for stuffing up the Irish economy? and there's not been that many dislikes. I think it's been that's usually a sign that people are sort of slightly stunned, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people reading it. And I sent it to John Key and all the cabinet members and across the different political parties and to all different mainstream media. So, yes, including Fran O'Sullivan, because I think she needs to be honest and she needs to do the follow-up, because there is another story now that we've seen what's happened to Ireland. It was totally the opposite to how it was, when it was, at the time, it might have been all fine and dandy, but it just has turned into an absolute disaster.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it's I believe our media, mainstream media, have a great part in it. They're meant to be the in-depth researchers on behalf of the people as the fourth estate, to give us a balanced information to make our decisions from. And I used to think...
By the way, I just had my microphone muted to stifle my groans of cackling debauched laughter. Go ahead.
I used to, when I first discovered all of this, I used to think it was that most every MP was corrupt and most every member of the media was corrupt. But over the years, I've come more to the conclusion that it's more a laziness that's taken advantage of by the senior elements of banking. They know how to tweak every one of our failings as humans, pretty much. People out there seeking the quickest way to payday, I believe, is probably the biggest reason why we're not getting detailed information. Most of it, I've trawled through line by line through every piece of regulation now relevant to our financial system, and you don't have to dig too deep to be able to see where what it causes is completely at odds with what the front end of our parliamentary apparatus is telling us we're trying to achieve. And so you got to ask yourself then, so why don't our media, our media, I believe, those that have made it to senior positions have been let there because they are financially illiterate more than them being seen to be financially literate, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Most of our corporate media now are majority stakeholder owned by senior elements of banking institutions.
Sure. Yeah.
So the likes of Sean Plunkett and Duncan Garner and those guys that now think they have judged themselves to be some sort of New Zealand's highest form of intelligence. They're
basically the same dude as like Duncan Plunkett.
Yeah, and they have not an ounce of financial literacy. Duncan Garner makes comments like when he was on tour with John Key over in America, that he was surprised at the likes of Timothy Geithner and that actually took the time to talk to him and stuff, and he's joking around going, well, they're talking all of this banking stuff and let's face it, that's a whole other man's language, Well, if Duncan Garner wants to claim to be the senior most form of intelligence in the country, well, how about he takes the time to find out just what that language is they're talking?
I mean, how many people with English as a second language are mainstream news journalists in New Zealand, like primetime anchors and everything like that, who can't speak English properly? None? Oh yeah, that's right. You know why? Because it comes with the job. You got to do what you've got to do.
Yeah, no, very much. A lot of them have probably realised that if you want to stay in the industry, there's certain areas you go and there's certain areas you don't.
Yeah. Well, just on the... Because, you will have done more research in this area than me, Ian. In terms of New Zealand's exposure to derivatives, well, back in June 2012, it was about 112 billion. Do you have any update on that figure?
I haven't looked at the actual figure, but, when you're starting to talk those sorts of sums, you don't really need to be too specific, Penny. But, derivatives are basically hedging instruments that they use to suppose it. Yeah, on anything to basically
gambling.
What are they basically to try and?
No! I came up with the perfect explanation for this. Okay, when you go into a casino and you give them a couple of $100 and they give you all these chips back, but the chips are numbered like 500, 1,000, and 10 and 20s and things of that nature. And there's a hell of a lot more chips in terms of numbers than the cash you gave over. The cash you gave over are the real assets. These numbers and all these chips that you get back that don't really exist. Okay. That's the derivatives.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's a
However, the worst thing is these chips actually count as dollar for dollar what you've put in, not equal to what you've put in, but each of them is worth what they say on the chip kind of thing.
Well, here's a definition of derivatives that's from, I think it's commondemocracy.info. Derivatives, the unregulated global casino for banks, okay? Short story, pick something of value, make bets on the future value of something, add contract, and you have a derivative. Banks make massive profits on derivatives, and when the bubble bursts, chances are the taxpayer will end up with the bill. This visualises the total coverage for derivatives notional, similar to insurance companies' total coverage for all cars. So I thought that was quite a handy little...
it's like to me, it's like a second layer of insurance on something that's already insolvent. You'd probably be aware of the historical admissions recently made in the Bank of England's first quarterly report of this year, Penny, where they basically come out and said that what's been told in the textbooks of economics around the world, especially for the last 60-odd years, especially in the Anglo-Saxon heritage nations, that from which all of our young, best and brightest people take their information to become advisors to our government and the likes, that the basis of which they've been telling us that banking works on the intermediation of already existing pools of liquidity has been completely wrong, and that it's basically just a system, the prudential reserve, where those in charge of administering the money supply weigh up what the purchasing power they authorise, basically to ensure that there's things on the other side of the deal to be purchased. Because if you authorise more purchasing power, then there are things to be purchased. Anything past that point enters the realm of counterfeiting. And so basically, when you accept somebody's currency, what you want to have confidence in is that you know, for your goods and services, you've just accepted some deferred purchasing power. And if you can't be confident that when you come to claim on your side of the deal that whoever gave it to you has things to purchase, you've just given them something for nothing. Well, the whole banking system has been operating on creating massive bundles of something for nothing to sell to people, and ultimately it's insolvent. And with the interest added, it just all falls in a hole. And then when people started to realise that these financial investments that the banks had sold them had no value, because there wasn't enough things to be purchased in the world for all of the purchasing power that had been created by credit, the banks went, oh, hang on, sweet, we'll come up with these. And John Key admits that he wasn't the one coming up with all of these ideas. He's on the record as saying he was the one in charge of the people coming up with these ideas. Yeah. So they all basically went, oh, look here, guys, no need to panic. We'll create these new products that will be like insurance upon the already layer of insolvent banking. So basically, they created these massive loan books again of, it was basically massive balls of counterfeiting that the rating agencies then said actually falsely rated, and then they sold them on to all the investment funds of the common pool people's investment funds of the world. And it was derivatives, when everybody began to realise that these derivatives had no backing, that actually caused and brought down and undermined the entire financial system, causing the collapse in 2008. And so John Key mentions about, you know, a good trader has to have impeccable timing, and, you know, in the excerpts from his book. Well, he had impeccable timing. He was part of building this massive this pump and dump Ponzi pyramid scam, and when it was getting a bit hot, and then he got out, he cashed out, you see, and now he turns around and makes out like, when I went back.
Yeah.
This reminds me of a really lame joke I heard when I was a small boy. You know what you call a chicken in a suit of armour?
Nope.
Impeccable.
Yeah, no, impeccable timing, mate. These senior elements of banking have.
I can imagine him flying the coop.
Yeah.
With the goose that laid the golden egg. How many analogies can I stretch out of this? Okay, I'm sorry. Keep going.
Another interesting development in recent times is back in 2007, prior to the last global financial crisis, the Bank of International Settlements, which is termed to be the central bank of central banks, it's the end of the line of the discount wholesale credit supply, which is at the heart of the private central banking network. They put out a report last time around in about 2007 stating that they believe the whole thing, openly stating that, you know, the Bank of International Settlements warns of a Great Depression approaching sort of thing. To me, that was a dog whistle to the fact that, hey boys, we've created all of this counterfeit credit that we've been receiving interest off for a long time now. It's about to be realised that most of it was based up on unrepayable bull dust, that there wasn't enough on the other side of the deal to ever repay. We're going to about to start putting up interest rates because they claim, this interest rate inflation targeting is basically what is caused by excess quantity of credit. Well, who does it assist when you actually increase the cost of that credit as a means to stem the demand for it? You're basically rewarding the criminals that allowed it to happen. And so
isn't this how Wall Street was supposed to work? I mean, am I confused?
Yes. Well, yeah. No. This is in truth is how it works. It's all a pump and dump pyramid scheme. But prior to the last crisis, the Bank of International Settlements basically made a loud call that it's all about to collapse. To me, it was a dog whistle to all of their lower elements that had assisted them to. It was like saying, "Hey, we've got enough purchasing power from interest now. Now we're going to start calling in some loans, and they'll claim that it's in the interest of keeping stability in the system, to reduce the demand of the peasants who have been taking out too much credit. We'll put up the cost of credit, despite it was them. Everyone trusts them to do the base credit accounting to keep it all in balance. That's what they claim we pay them the interest for, is basically their fee for at the moment as being the admin of the money system." But just in recent times, they just released their latest annual report, and once again they're screaming from the high heavens that instead of where are we? BIS, an organisation representing the world's main central bank, said the overall somewhat gloomy message from the central bankers was that the world is drunk on easy money, has already forgotten the lessons of recent years. Instead of adding to productive capacity, large firms prefer to buy back shares and engage in mergers and acquisitions. The temptation to postpone adjustment can prove irresistible, especially when times are good and financial booms sprinkle the fairy dust of illusory riches, the report said.
Whoa. What lessons of previous years is he talking about? The bailout, all the bankers that got us into debt and give them all golden parachutes lesson, and no criminal charges of any kind, and not ask for a single share in the banks that the people are bailing out? Is that the lesson we didn't learn?
That's the lesson we didn't learn, and the report goes on to say the consequences is the growth model that relies too much on debt, both private and public, and which over time sows the seeds of its own demise. So that's just in their recent annual report. So to me, again, the Bank of International Settlements, which basically, as I explained to you the other day, Vinny, the Anglo-Saxon heritage private central banking system, the senior elements or institutions of it are all owned by, you can trace them back, and it's been done by the likes of even Oxfam now, who have traced it back, the cross ownership of everything, and basically, and they've announced.
Have they? Yeah. So they've got something current because then that sort of stuff's very helpful.
Yep, no, and they've announced that they can trace it back, the cross ownership, to 85 people owning 50% of the wealth of the world. 85 people.
Wow.
That's Oxfam.
That's obscene.
Indeed,
and so those institutions are all owned by the family trusts of the ultra intergenerational wealth families of the world. They own at the moment what they call, when you trace back the wholesale credit discount chain, because that's basically how business operates at the moment under the this is in the Anglo-Saxon heritage nations, like the Eastern nations operate a whole different philosophy of money. It's called public central banking, where they basically take the collateral of their natural resource collateral and type it in, the value of it, into their own accounts, and then spend it directly into circulation, free of private bank interest, like the likes of Russia. China's a bit of a...
is that why we keep picking on those people, is it?
It is, yeah. Basically, those baddies over there in the Eastern nations, that's the ultimate fault line in international high finance, is the difference between... a lot of people, we think the left and the right in this country is like Labour, look after the worker, National, look after the business. People have forgotten that left and right is actually two ends of a spectrum of economic organisation, and the very dividing fault line is private profit central banking, where the private banks control the base accountancy of credit and the issuance of currency in your money system, or on the left, for any party to be truthfully claiming to be of the left, they have to practice what they call at cost mode of public central banking. That's where they take because that's basically all the private banks. What we absurdly do at the minute in this country is we've contracted out the base accountancy of our credit and the issuance of our currency to the Anglo-Saxon Heritage private central banking network. They take the collateral of our natural resources and our labour, our natural resources, and as collateral that gives value to the credit that they type into their account over there in London or the US Federal Reserve, and then they loan that money back to us as interest-bearing loans to circulate as the currency in our money system.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to go to break. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, at thevinnieeastwoodshow.com. This is a listener-supported broadcast, so if you want to see it continue, please go to the homepage and start donating either through the Kiwi Bank account or the PayPal, or you could just message me and we can figure out a way to get some other thing if you hate, bank accounts and PayPal and all of that kind of jazz. We'll be right back.